Right, you're still muted, Mick. Mick, you will need to unmute yourself.
This happening. Right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're muted. You're unmuted now.
I'm unmuted, right. So I don't know why all these are changing without me doing any clicking. Right, okay. Well, welcome to the show and tell. We've got a good programme ahead of us, thanks to the people who've contributed. Just to let you know, John, that you've been moved slightly down the programme because both items shown by Loïc are going to be at the beginning of the programme. Otherwise, the sequence is as I told you earlier. So if I can find. That's it. Okay, so our first contributor then is David. So I'll let you introduce yourself while the title page is up.
Thank you very much. I'm David Parmley, as it says. Do I say next slide, please?
Just say next, yes.
Yes. Right, I've got this cover to show you today. This was brought to my attention by Steve Ellis, who found it on Del Camp. And the interest to me is it's addressed to the company for which I've worked for 30 years on and off. John Holton Company Liverpool Limited, which was an old established trading company, incorporated in 1897. So it's got a 5-digit company number, and we're up to 4 million now. Robert L. Holt was the chairman. And as you can see, we were located in the Royal Liver building, one of the 3 graces of the Liverpool waterfront. We moved from there to Water Street, a building called India Building, which you can frequently see on television. It's a fantastic 30s Art Deco building, which the frontage is often used as a backdrop in period television productions. But we had extensive interests in French and British West Africa. As you can see, this letter's come from Dahomey. Doesn't look very much on the front. If you turn it over and show the next slide, you can see it's a fantastic multicolour franking. If we just go back to the previous slide, this has been written up by the previous owner, but it's never wise to take very much notice of that sort of thing because he's got letter of franchise 850 francs, but it's actually stamped for 825. His theory that it's 8 francs for 20 grams and 50 centimes postage forced to pieces. Is in 1935, when it was posted, the UPU rate wasn't anything like 50 centimes. It was in fact 150, 1 franc 50. So I've done a little research in Piccadilly. Weighed the envelope, and being made of stout paper, it weighs about 8 grams. That gives me a start. So I've concluded that it probably weighed 15 grams with an enclosure. The UPU rate 150, 2 francs per 5 grams, the air supplement to France, and 75 centimes for the air supplement from France to Europe, gives us 825, corresponding with the franking. franked all the way to the UK as per the manuscript inscription. And that's about it. Interesting cover with considerable personal interest to me.
Okay. Thank you very much then, David. Is there anything else you want to say about the reverse of the cover? No. Okay.
No, nothing further.
No, okay. Right, Loïc, if you'd like to introduce yourself and to your first talk.
I may do that. So I'm Loïc Dufresne de Virel. So I'm the French guy living in Portland for now in Oregon. So a little bit waking up still. And what I wanted is to talk to you about a few charged or declared value letters or insured letters from Indochina. And we can go to the next slide. So I'm going to go through 3 and actually I think 4 covers. The first 2 you see here, one is from Saigon to France. It has a line T cancel on it, not the usual line N, but that was the other line that worked in the area at the time. I think servicing more towards New Caledonia or things like that. It's from 7 francs and 55 centimes for postage, registration and insurance. Not the highest amount that I have seen on group type mail. Of everything I collect is group type, but it's a quite respectable amount for franking on an envelope. We have another one, this time from iPhone to Hanoi in May 1908. Franc 3.15 for 3 francs and 15 centimes. And then one from Hanoi to Paris, we'll see that is franked at 3 francs and 85 centimes. The first 2 come from the Magnolia collection from Steve Chazen that was sold by Seagull Auction last month. Yeah, it was last month. I was lucky enough to acquire them both, so I'm very happy. The third one is in the collection of somebody you might know, Ron Bentley, with the executive secretary of the Society of Indo-Chinese Philatelists. Is one of my American-based colleagues here. So let's move to the next slide and start with those covers. So this is a 10,000 franc, okay, declared value cover. So 10,000 franc was the maximum that was authorized. This letter is very, very nice, okay. It is probably one of the few, I think I know of 2 maybe covers where we have a 5 franc from Indochina used properly for postage. It is from Saigon, as we said, from I think the 28th of July 1898, and it is being sent to Saint-Pierre-Quilbignon in the Western Department of Finistère in Brittany, in France. Interestingly enough, the description in the catalog from Seagull mentioned a charge letter from Indochina to the French island of La Réunion because they noticed Saint-Pierre. And they added an interesting destination and scars, which means that they really don't know what they're presenting. And you have a nice collection of group type stamps with the 5 francs, of course, from Indochina, 1 franc, 2.50 centimes. So some of the high values, and you have the charge, hand stamp at the bottom. You have that line T cancel, octagonal. The franking is right. It's a double. I'm not sure if I have if you go to the next slide, we have the grill, the charge kind of frame here, and you can see it's like 15 grams and 80 centigram. There is a handwritten mention from the postal clerk saying the weight was rectified to 17 gram and 20 centigram. So it's a second value letter. So for postage, 2 times 25 centimes, 50 centimes. Registration, 25 centimes. And for the insurance, at the time, we were at 20 centimes per each block of 300 francs. So you have basically 33 times, 33 and 1/3 times 300 equal 10,000. So you had to pay 34 times 20 centimes for insurance, or 6 francs and 80 centimes, which gives you the total of 7 francs and 55 centimes that is found on the front of the cover. You also noticed, if the view is still fresh in your mind, that all the stamps were properly spaced out, which was according to regulations. There was absolutely no issue there. I mean, the rule stated that the stamp had to be separated, so there was no way for somebody to open the letter and then reseal it by putting a strip of stamps on top of the opening where they would have taken the money out. So that was part of the rule. Plus, normally there are like 5 wax seals on the back in diagonal. I think those on this cover has been removed. So as I said, that's one of the few, I think I know of 2 covers, this one included, that has a properly used 5 franc group type stamp. And I said from Indochina, but that is only the only country that we're gonna see that. And I mentioned earlier the line T cancelled, so that was the line from Marseille to Australia, with a stopover in Colombo, Ceylon or Sri Lanka. And it is most likely that letter traveled through the steamer, on the steamer Ville de la Ciotat from the line T, French packet number 4. And most likely it traveled from Saigon to Colombo on the Caledonian, another French steamer from the Messageries Maritime, which was a line N, which didn't stamp the mail. And the mail was transferred in Colombo from the Caledonian, arriving on the Ville de la Ciotat, departing, allowing it to reach Marseille 4 days earlier. I don't know if that was just something they did because that mail was charged later. I don't know if the other mail travels the same way. We might move to the next slide, because we know of another cover that has the same line T cancelled from the 29th of July, also coming from Indochina. This one registered. This one was in the collection of a friend, Edward Grabowski, coming from a small village of Faithful. And it traveled the same, probably on the first steamer line N from Saigon to Colombo, and then it was loaded on the Ville de la Ciotat in Colombo on the 28th of July, 1898. So it seems that there was a lot of the mail being transferred in order to expedite its arrival to France. We can go to the next slide. So this is the second value letter, also at 10,000 francs. So once again, the maximum amount that was authorized. I would have loved to have a 2 franc group on this one, but it's a 2 franc grasset. So, but there is still 250 centime group. And you notice that the franking on this is quite different. And when I initially looked at this cover, I didn't have the back, so I had to kind of make a guess about how it was. Was it a first weight, second weight, third weight? I didn't know really what was the weight of that cover. All we know it was franc, 3 francs and 15 centimes. And so working this backwards, we can go to the next slide. And looking at the rules applying, you can see that this is taken, I think, from one of the official journals of Indochina, that the declared value letters are only admitted for the Indochina and the country is listed in the table. The taxes to collect are for Indochina. The one relevant for a letter of the same weight, so for postage, plus a fixed fee of 25 centimes, plus a proportional fee of 10 centimes per 500 francs, or fraction of 500 francs. So that was for the interior mail, from Indochina to Indochina. When you would send mail to another country, then you had to refer to the table that was listed later to get the proportional fee, as we saw earlier, which was like 20 centimes per 300 francs of insured value in the case of France, but some other countries, you would go as up to 85 centimes, I think, per 300 francs for some insurance. So it was depending on the receiving country. So at the time I had broken this down into, well, then you have for insurance 2 francs, you have the reference fee of 25 centimes, and we need 90 centimes for the postage. So that should be a letter between 75 and 90 grams, 6 rate. So probably quite heavy with a lot of bills in it. And another very, very nice declared value letter. And we can go to the next slide. And we got confirmation when I got a scan of the back of that letter, which said, 80 grams. And I had kind of guessed it was between 75 and 90. So we got the, voila, Eureka, we were correct. And this is the back of the letter. So 2 nice examples of high value, 10,000 franc declared value letters, the maximum that was possible. One towards France, so with the insurance at 20 cents per 300 francs, and the second one to local mail with insurance only at 10 centimes per 500 francs of declared value. So very and high value postage from the group type. So 2 items that made me very, very happy. We can go to the next one. So this one is another example where you have a mix of group type and Grasset, also with a 2 franc Grasset, and this time a 75 centime group type, relatively high value for the declared 5,000 francs in declared value, all the stamp nicely separated. And my calculation was it should be 3 francs and 40 centimes. It is like 3 francs and 45 centimes, I believe. Or no, sorry, it should be 3 francs and 80 centimes. And it is 3 francs 85. So there's probably 5 centimes overpaid. But it might be a second weight letter, there might be a 10 centime stamp on the back. I don't have a copy of the back. So in those cases, you cannot really conclude, I need to ask around to send me a scan of the back. But my view is that probably the person put the high value stamp and then they needed 5 centimes and they didn't have a 5 centimes, so they put 10 centimes on it, and that was good enough. Still a pretty nice cover. I think I have one more that I added just for the fun of it. So we can go to that next slide. No, this is a summary. Okay. So this is just for reference, and then there is a lot of information available when I do that kind of research. I strongly recommend looking at the postal guide from Indochina from 1904, which is available on the FICP website. It was in French, and Ron and I translated it a couple of years back, so it's in English now. Of course, there is all of the many years of the general, kind of Annuaire de l'Indochine on the National, Library of France on Gallica. If you go to Paris and you can go to the historical library of the Post and Telegraph, you can consult the Bulletin Mensuel des Postes. Some of them are available online, and of course, information from SALS on the Post Maritime of the French colonies. So there is a lot of data that's available there. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, and this next one, I wanted to mention it because it's also quite an interesting cover. With the 5 francs from Indochina, the one that's overcharged, Yunnan Sen used in the Chinese office, depending from Indochina, declared value of 3,000 francs. This time the frame with the data is on the front of the letter, which is unusual. You can see there is a handwritten mention, affranchi par l'expéditeur, frank by the sender, which is a way for the postal clerk to kind of protect themselves, given the franking here is way above what should have been, placed based on the weight, first weight letter. So, it should have been a 15 centime at the time, and then registration 25, and insurance should have been, 2 francs. So we were looking probably at a 240, 2 francs 40 centimes for postage, and we have a 5 francs for postage. So twice the amount. The advice of receipt at the time should have been on a 10-cent stamp on a separate piece of paper, advice of receipt. And what's interesting is that this leather was sold back in May at an auction in France, and it went for only 440 euros. I think I bid on it like 350 or 400 because I didn't value it for more than that. Given it can really be used for an exhibit because the franking is totally bogus in a way, even if it's a nice high value stamp. It was on sale on the Lugdunum sale that ended yesterday, and Thierry Dalvé listed it as a pièce d'amateur, and it sold for 2,625 euros. So there is a strong inflation because this cover went from May to November. It went from 440 to more than 2,600. So that's like 5 times, 6 6 times the price that it made 6 months ago. I'm completely speechless on this one because I really don't think it's worth that much. Yes, it's a nice cover. It's an insured value. It has a lot of postal marks on it. You know, with the Monksebay Council, it has the Yokohama Marseille, you know, number 8. So it's nice, but I wouldn't call it a pièce d'amateur. It's more like a I don't know, a showpiece, but not for the right show. And I think that's it for the chart value letters. You can go to the next topic. Okay, we continue with group type. I hope you like the group type, and I know I love it. So in this one, I want to talk to you about some of the special prints that exist from the group type. So I label them a little bit in a funny way. So those are what I consider to be the most famous or the most well-known. And though l'Atelier du Timbre, okay, the printing organization in Paris for the 1900 Universal Expo in Paris had created posters with the French and French colony stamps. So in total, if you go to the Postal Museum in Paris, they have copies of 255 different posters, okay, that cover, you know, France, and you have some of the kind of types that existed at the time, Monaco and the French colonies. We believe that 5 units of those posters of each one were printed, and the Musée de la Poste has 2 or 3 of each left in their collections. If you want to see them, you have to be really nice to the lady who works there, because she has to go to the vault in the basement, grab them. They're big, they're heavy, they're bulky. A friend of mine went maybe 2 years ago, and he had her take everything out so he could take those photographs. When I went last year, she said, no, you know, I can maybe bring 2 or 3 of them to show you, but not everything. So you have to let her know ahead of time you want to see those, but I think she would go and take them out. They're beautiful. They're quite large, okay, 45 to 65 centimeters, and you can see that they have those posters are basically, for the colonies, you have 4 posters for most colonies. The first one that's shown here for the Senegal has the low values, so 1 centime to 30 centime. The second poster has the higher value, the 40 centime to 1 franc. Obviously, for Indochina, it's different. It has not the 4 blocks, but 6 blocks, because it also has the colis postaux and the 5 franc. And then you have 2 posters for the postal stationery, one with postcard and letter cards, and one for envelopes. And then there is, for 2 colonies, there is a 5th poster for French Guiana and Réunion, because they have additional postal stationery items. I think Réunion has a mandat carte, so a money order, and French Guiana has some more letters, I think, or envelopes. But so they're quite large, and we can go to the next slide. And so here is some samples of those, you know, the second for Senegal, the full set. Okay, and you notice that of course the high value, you have more white space around those blocks. That explain why on some of the block of 4 that are sold, you know, that have been cut, that are sold on the market, you have way more white space around those block of 4s than what you find in the lower values, because those are like, you know, a little bit closer together on the initial posters. And we can go to the next one. So the kind of stuff you can still find on the market. There are some surviving. Most of the posters, out of the 5 that were printed, the 2 or 3 that went on the philatelic market have been cut by dealers, which is unfortunate in my opinion. They're easier to send by mail, that's for sure. And so you can find some blocks of 25 like this. I haven't seen the high value. Over the past couple of years, I have seen the 9 blocks for Senegal from 1 centime to 30 centime come to the market. I have seen a couple of blocks from Obok as well. So, and you notice, you know, the around it, you know, they're all with the semi perforation. You know, the perforation are printed, they're not cut or perforated. It's just like, you know, an illustration. The colors are really nice. They're beautiful, beautiful pieces. And some of the other kind of cut that we can find, we can go to the next slide. No. Okay, so a few years back, I think Groupe sold multiple sets of series like this. I didn't put the 1 centime on this view because it would have broken the balance of the display, but I could have. But so you have some of those blocks cut with blocks of 6 with the date underneath, the stamp in case 23. Obviously, when you have block of 6 like this, you no longer have the 2 blocks of 4 on the sides, so that limits the number of block of 4 that are available on the market for those colonies. There is typically, I know of only each one of the series of blocks of 6 like this is unique in my opinion. And then block of 4s you can find probably, you know, if there was 2 posters cut, normally you would have 2 top and 2 bottom blocks times 2 posters, so that would be 8. Of course, if there is a kind of block of 6 like this and the number of blocks of 4 drops down to 6, if some posters were not cut in and you have blocks of 25, then the numbers of block of 4 remaining drops down to 4. It depends. So we don't know really how many blocks and bits and pieces exist, but you find them. And if we go to the next slide, I think I have some of those. I know those are shows from just to show you the way that the posters with the postal stationery were cut. I have only seen those views on the market where you have the top, you know, that list, you know, carte postale or envelopes, and then you have the name of the colony, and then you have one first, you know, envelope or postcard being printed there. I haven't seen the one that are, you know, further down on the posters where there will be no reference of the type of item or the country, just, you know, the little representation on cardboard. I find it really sad that those were cut. They're beautiful full size. They're really pieces. They're art pieces. There's nothing else. Okay, let's move on. The next one, please. Okay, this is one of the one I labeled the most intriguing. If you look carefully, you can see that for some of those stamps, let's say that it's probably more obvious on the 15 centime, on the 30, the 2 centime, the 10. You can see that the perforation exists, but they're also printed. So those stamps, the block from 1 to 30 centime, were printed using the same prints that were used for the posters earlier. So they have the background color, and they have the perforation that were printed, you know, simulated printed, but those stamps were later perforated. We have seen. We can go, and I have some of the comments on the next slide, but you know, this is a very nice series. We don't really know what this, you know, sheet of paper like this, where it was, where, how, or when it was done. Obviously, you can see some of the dates, you know, like 28th of February, 1891 for the first series. That is a full year and a half, more than that, before those stamps actually came to market, because those stamps were actually, you know, put out in November 1892. So what we believe is that those were probably printed at the time, and they were just stored like this as, you know, references. But they might have been printed later, because they use the same prints that what you had seen before on the posters that were printed for the expo in 1900. So there's a little bit of confusion around those stamps. We don't really know why they were made, when they were made, why they appear on those sheets with those dates. Let's move to the next slide, because we have seen some of those sheets for actually Madagascar, New Caledonia, and Saint-Pierre and Miquelon. We have the full series of stamps that are stuck on sheets from the Atelier du Timbre, you know, with those similar dates. We have seen other series, you know, with loose stamps from a few countries, not all of the colony, but I'm sure they exist for all of the colonies. Some of those series, like the one from Grande Comore, include stamps that were actually never issued, like the 5 centime yellow green. And all of them, the 1 centime to 30 centime, have the simulated perforations. And so we think that they were printed using the same, you know, printing frames that existed for those posters, and that they were later perforated. I showed you here the colis postaux from Indochina, and you can see that when those were perforated, you have the little bridge that was between the two panes of 25. So I think they only printed really a group of 25. But it doesn't seem that the 25 stamps have survived. It appears that maybe only 1 or 2 series of those might exist. Yes, Jean-Jacques Thiard knows that page. He actually asked me about it, and he wasn't so sure he wanted it. He should have bought it, but I got it. It was a pretty penny. I need to probably loan it to him for his exhibit on Saint-Pierre and Miquelon. That will help him. No, it's a beautiful sheet. And so we think that there are 2 series that exist, because we have seen some of the, I think from New Caledonia, we have seen a couple of versions of some of those simulated perfs on different values that do not match. So we know there is probably 2 series of those stamps out there. We don't know. You don't really see them very often, but they do exist. And really, what helps you to differentiate them for other stamps? I mean, if you have a little bit of the selvage, the background color only goes a few millimeters from the perforation. While if you look at a full sheet of stamp, the typical group types that are printed and perforated without the simulated perforation, the background color goes typically further away. That's one of the key items. The paper also is light paper, and there's no gum, if I'm not wrong. So very intriguing. We are still doing a lot of research on this to understand what they're about. Okay. Yeah, let's move to the next one. Okay, so the next one is the most creatively divided, or the one that has been cut, probably around 1891, when this design was being approved and the stamps were being discussed. The Atelier du Timbre, the printing arm of the post office, if you want, printed blocks of 25. They're basically with a list of colonies shown here, where they had the name of the 18 colonies that initially received the stamps in 1893. And since there was a block of 25, there was 7 vignette without the name of a colony. I have reproduced 6 of them on the side. I actually managed to put back a full series of the 13 values. I had 12 of them and I was missing a 15 centime, but I got it at some point from another merchant in Paris. So those existed, and they printed 2 different blocks. One without background color, and those are the vignette that you see here, and one with background color. So let's move on and we'll show a few samples of those, and I will explain why I call them creatively divided. And actually, before we move, if you see some of the...
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Mick, I make it difficult for you.
No,
If you
no.
see the color coding I have here is because I kind of listed some of the pairs that I know exist. So there is a Diego Suarez Independence plus Guyane vertical that exists for quite a few values. There is a New Caledonia and Martinique horizontal that exist. Our friend Jean-Jacques Tillard has a series of blocks of 4 in a L shape with Saint-Pierre et Miquelon, blank blank, and India. I know as well of a Réunion and blank, so the corner pair here that exist. There used to be, I think, a block of 6 from the French Congo, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Guadeloupe, Senegal, and Mayotte, but this one has been cut as well. So now we can move to the next slide. So I show you on the left just 4. I think I have 10 pairs like this. So there's still some values that I don't have, and I can explain why, at least for one of them. So there is a series of 10 pairs, Diego Suarez and Guyane, with the background color. In the middle, you can see the way that the 10 centime block was cut. This is actually 2 pieces. There is a strip of 3, the Diego Suarez, Guyane, and New Caledonia. And then there is a weird shaped T, with Anjouan, Saint-Pierre, 2 blanks on the right, and then 1 blank underneath. And obviously, the pair that will complete the series of, Diego Suarez and Guyane, the vertical pair, is right there in that strip of 3, but I'm not going to cut it. So it's going to keep existing as a strip of 3 stamps vertically. And then the New Caledonia and Martinique on the right, this is just a few values of the full series of 13 values without the background color. Interestingly enough, I think our friend Bear in Paris has a series of, I'm going to say 11 pairs for sale right now, asking like 5,000 euro for it, which is outrageous. And it's some hodgepodge because there is probably 8 without background color and 3 with background color. So those stamps have been cut. Those blocks have been cut, they've been sold in bits and pieces, and then maybe they have recovered some of them and they put them in series and try to resell them like that. I would love to be able to put back together a complete block, but that's way too expensive. But I have quite a few items in my collection. They're beautiful. The colors are really, really bright. And of course they're on cardboard, so they will last forever. Let's move on. What is the next one? And there is one that still puzzles me. So that is another one of those weird prints. There's a pair, Dahomey and Soudan Français. So those are the stamps from the 1900 and after kind of series with a change of colors from the UPU regulations. The print on those is not really as good as what we have on the other blocks. And it is printed, if you look at the back of that pair, it's a postal form. It's some sort of administrative paper with, I don't know. We don't know what kind of form it is because that's all we have. So there is no real reference number or text. But our friend Jean-Jacques Tillard has a similar pair of the 50 centimes of Saint-Pierre and Anjouan, which is also printed on the back of a formula, of an administrative form from the post office. And those are the only two that I know of. There might be more, because most likely they printed again a 25, a block of 25 with multiple names. Although there were more countries at the time that had the the group type stamps. Like Sudan was added, Dahomey was added. So I hope they didn't make a block of 30 like Fournier, but that's what exists. And we have seen only that pair on the 15 centimes. I have never seen the other colonies. And we only know the pair of Saint-Pierre and Miquelon plus Anjouan for the 50 centimes. And we have not seen the 10 centime red or the 25 centime blue, only the 15 gray and the 50 centime Bister have been seen. So we are still looking for more of those, trying to but they're really we are totally puzzled. We can't explain, just maybe a print run, trial run, but why would those have survived and not any other? It's hard to say. No.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Loïc. That's been absolutely outstanding. I've been just drooling here looking at this material, and I've been looking at it for quite a while since you sent it to me, and I think it's quite unbelievable material. And you're so fortunate to have this in your collection. Congratulations.
Yeah, it has taken me some time and certainly a few dollars. But there are some I don't know. I don't have an unlimited budget, but so some of them, I know Bear showed me that Groupe is selling right now, like 2 or 3 years ago when I was in Paris, and he said, hey, I have this, you tried it. And, yeah, but it's incomplete, and it's a mix, and he keeps selling it without mentioning that it's incomplete, and of course people should know, and that it's a mix of without and with background color. Somebody's going to buy it probably. Yeah, it's going to be gone. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much indeed.
Beautiful pieces.
And have a good day.
Oh, I'm going to keep watching the rest of the stuff.
Oh, you're going to keep watching? Oh, good for you.
Oh, yeah, my meeting is only at 8. I have 45 minutes. Let's go.
Okay, then we'll move on. Thank you again. Right, John, here you are. Here's your introductory page. If you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we'll move on. John, are you unmuted? No. John, you need to unmute. Thank you.
That's better. Right.
Sorry, I'll go.
I've got 13% battery left, so I may run out.
Okay.
Anyway, if you want to put the
there's your introduction
page up.
Mm-hmm.
I will try and introduce this subject as best I can. Following the outbreak of the First World War, the International Committee of the Red Cross was quick to recognize that they would have an important and substantial role to play. In accordance with a mandate conferred upon it by an International Red Cross conference held in Washington in 1912, a special notice was sent to all the national societies requesting information concerning the composition of their prisoner of war commissions. Dispatched on 15th of August 1914, the notice also proposed the establishment of one central office that should be the focal point of all inquiries concerning prisoners of war. On the 21st of August 1914, the International Agency of Relief and Information for Prisoners of the First World War was opened. In its infancy, it was manned by the Committee of 8, plus its secretary and a student volunteer, the entire staff of the Red Cross at Geneva. By the end of the year, their ranks had swollen to a staff of 1,200. Initially, this agency was based at premises at 3 Athénée, Geneva, which is the base, which is their head office. However, it quickly became evident that this address was insufficient to cater for the demands being placed upon it. And on 12th of October 1914, the municipal authorities placed the Rath Museum, situated at Place Neuve in Geneva, at their disposal. On the 27th of August 1914, the then president, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, you're still there.
It's all right. My battery's down to 10%, so
Oh,
I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do here.
just keep going, John.
All right.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's uncharitable to make suggestion, but it's unlikely that one of the original committee, Dr. Frederick Ferrier, would have endeared himself to his colleagues with his proposal that they should include their workload by embracing the problem of civilian internees. However, he succeeded in generating support for the creation of a special section of the agency which would deal with non-combatants who were missing. Some had simply fled to escape the fighting, some had been deported, some interned, and of course many were to be killed. Nevertheless, they posed a huge logistical problem. The organizing committee introduced a filing system that, whilst basic, proved to be effective and subsequently withstood the rigors of both time and quantity. Requests immediately began to pour in, and soon it was receiving in excess of 5,000 appeals for help daily. With a volume of requests reaching such mammoth proportions, the staff formulated a simple system of reply labels, which were designed to be affixed to correspondence they had engendered. To facilitate the expedient sorting of incoming mail, the labels were color-coded and contained a manuscript or occasionally a typescript filing reference number designed to identify the relevant section or clerk dealing with that inquiry. The labels were all printed on coloured paper. Away you go, Mick. The next. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Away you go, please.
So you want me to go straight through them?
Labels were all printed on coloured paper. So if you start off with the green ones.
Well, I'm showing those now.
Right, I'm not able to see them yet.
Ah, I beg your pardon, because I've moved on then. Do you want me to go back to the first page of green labels?
If you would, yeah.
Right, there we are. Can you see those?
Not yet, no.
Oh dear. What can you see on your screen at the moment? Is it just the
Me.
gallery of
Me.
people?
Only of me and the gallery of people, yeah.
Yeah, well, well, certainly on my screen, you can go to the top right-hand corner and click a little line which will minimize the gallery. It'll reduce it to a small area so that you can see your
No,
presentation.
no.
Ah, dear me. Have you got any further advice, Chris? I mean, the point is,
Jan can see them.
I can
Yeah.
see them as well.
So what have I done wrong?
you've got
Switch screen share. Oh, right, that's better. Right, okay.
you shouldn't need to use screen share at all.
Well, I've got the pages now, so I can see what you're showing.
Oh, that's fine then. Okay.
Right, now, literally translated, in letters ESFF stands for Enquête Spéciale Fichier Français. Now, you can see on the label on the left, the letters SP have been added. Now, I've made inquiries as to what this could mean. And apparently Poland didn't exist during the First World War. It was South Poland. So this particular letter may well refer to a soldier who is Sud Polonaise.
Mm.
Can anybody dispute that one?
No, I don't think so, John.
Right.
Unfortunately, other people are on mute. So perhaps if people have got comments to make or answers to give to your questions, they can do so at the end of your display. Okay.
Right. Well, I've also on there is also a letter showing the franking of 25 centimes, which proves that it didn't guarantee them a free postage facility. And this has obviously come from a private person. Okay, next one, Mick. Right. Now, on looking at the right-hand one, you'll see the initial B after ESFF. Now, B is by looking at the cancellation above it at Charleroi, you can work out that that's from relates to a Belgian soldier. Next one, Mick. I think we're going to have to go through these fairly quickly. Right, there's one on a morning cover, and then there's one here which shows the green label used as an address label later on during the war. Okay, Mick. Right, we've got another one here, which is Belgian.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the cancellation above it from the Belgian government, who had at that time, they had their own offices in Le Havre. So again, I think that's self-explanatory. Now, this is an interesting one in that you've got the letters OO after it. Now, I have spent some time trying to work out what OO stood for. And I had Maurice Tyler to thank. Oh, goodness me. Hang on. He found a German abbreviation for OO, which meant Obost. I'm not sure about it because it would seem that the majority of the clerks in Geneva were French. They didn't speak German. But Maurice has found that the letters O with a capital O following it, i.e. with 2 dots over the first O, would make the letter better sense in German, as this phrase could then be Ostdeutscher Oberbefehl, Eastern Supreme Command, or Ostlicher Oberreichsbischof, Eastern Supreme Commander. But a capital letter is always used for the noun, not the adjective. So Ost is possible, but that would need OO and would not explain the lowercase letter O. And why would such a reference be needed? However, I have just taken another look at my German dictionary, and have found that OO is an accepted abbreviation for ohne Ort, which literally means without place or no location.
Oh.
Unless that label means without place or no location, unless that label means and has the 2 dots over the first O, the meaning is therefore likely to be something like location unknown or no locality known. But then you indicated in your article that all other references of this sort are in French. So that one's more difficult to resolve. And there's another one. I think we're going to have to rush through the others before I run out of battery.
Okay.
So,
shall I move on?
Yeah, we go on to the cerise ones. Cerise.
Well, if you like, we can just do the green ones today and keep the other color-coded ones for a part 2 on another occasion.
Well, if you want to finish at 2:30, then yes, we'll have to.
I'm just thinking of your battery running out.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going. Let's just keep
All
going.
right.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry. I'm enjoying this.
The one that you're showing now is one of the smaller labels, which isn't, if you look at the left-hand side, it's not perforated. Now, usually there was a perforated section which the person to whom this was sent would detach so that he or she had some record at home of the correspondence number that was being sent. But this one, for some reason, hasn't. So how that was detached, I don't know. And you can see also on this that this is a on the reverse side in manuscript are details of the commissaire de police at Mulson in the Ardennes. He had evidently been seconded to the Army Reserve as a lieutenant, and it is reported he was taken prisoner on the 5th of October 1914. Okay, next one then, Mick. Right, now, here is a cover with 2 labels on. Not desperately uncommon, but certainly less common than the others. But this would refer normally to an inquiry sent to a hospital where they would have more than one of the soldiers being treated for his injuries. So you would find that the reply, and in this case, one is handwritten and one is typescript, has been returned to Geneva with 2 of these labels on. And I've also noted that these 2 labels provide evidence of the existence of colour variations. But it's interesting to note that one reference number has been added in typescript while the other has been completed by hand. Right. On the left-hand side is a cover that has been pre-printed and sent from a German prisoner of war camp, I suspect. But it's referring to a French POW. This cover features an example of the smallest recorded size of label, measuring just 46 millimeters by 30 millimeters. It's been sent from the prisoner of war camp at Gustro and cancelled on the 17th of May. Also of note is the circular cachet of the Kommandante des Kriegsgefangenen Lagers at Gustro, which is the prisoner of war camp. Right, next one, Mick. Okay. Now I've got down to 5% battery.
Oh, that'll be enough, John.
Okay. Right. Well, I'll see you all next time then.
You don't want you'd rather leave this end for a part 2 later on rather than
I think
okay then.
That's it. Yeah. Cheers.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed, then, John. Okay.
Pleasure.
Chris, can I turn to you?
Chris.
Right. I've got a small display to show if we've got time. Or shall I hang on to that?
There's no limit on time.
I can carry on. I'll proceed on with it then, shall I? Okay. Now, I'm not sure how to jump.
There's no time limit, so yeah, let's
Okay.
carry on.
Okay, I'll quickly flick. Is there any way I can get past the next few frames? Don't know how to jump frames. Don't want to. No, I'll just have to go through these very quickly then. Whoops, there we are. Okay. I think most people know that I have this weird interest in postal mechanization. Very, very modern postal history. but it's one that has enthralled me ever since it was started way back in the 1960s and 1970s. So I've been following its progress with great interest. Although with my collecting, I really had to curtail what I was collecting and stop with the what I call the experimental codes, which ceased in 1979. Really, after 2000, it gets so highly technical, and the interpretation of the codes on cover is so difficult that really it no longer becomes a pleasure. So the older the postal code program is, the more I enjoy it. So I thought what I would do then is just to introduce you to what I think people will recognise as the most common postcodes that were used on French mail. The one on the left was the series of yellow columns of bars, each column representing the 2 numbers of the département, followed by the 3 initial letters, the 3 first letters of the destination town. So the idea was a letter would arrive in the sorting office. It would go to the coding desk. The person operating the coding desk would key in 94VIN, and that would then print the phosphor bars onto the envelope, which the scanners could then read to sort them and put them into the right sorting bin for collection. Various languages were used. These were called alphanumeric languages. This was one of the early ones, the Austerlitz one, with a short start. That means that the top bar, which is the start, is the same size as the remainder. The next wave of languages were the numeric languages, which you see on the right-hand side, and this is when France introduced its 5-digit postal codes, and consequently there were only numbers to be keyed here by the coding desk operator, and as you can see 87031 has been keyed in, and the barcode come up at the bottom right-hand side. This new numeric language was introduced in 1973 with La Source 1, and then it was modified to La Source 2, which is still in use today for the outward code, but not for the inward code. But as I said, I like to look back at the very, very early days of the mechanized sorting of mail. And it's all started in the now defunct département of Seine-et-Oise. Now, Seine-et-Oise was a huge département which completely encircled Paris, as you can see on the left-hand side. And in this département, there was the Centre National d'Études des Télécommunications, the CNET, where equipment was experimented with and tried and tested for all sorts of up-to-date programmed uses. It was located at Issy-les-Moulineaux, which is not far from Versailles. Now, this was where the first experiments took place, and the experiments were only conducted using mail destined for the Département of Seine-et-Oise. Now, what happened was they, first of all, designated just a 2-letter code to the towns of Seine-et-Oise. So you can see on the left-hand side the towns that had bins allocated to them in the sorting machines, and the 2-letter code that would be printed on the envelope for the scanner to read. In the center, you've got basically these are the prototype. This is prototype equipment, of course, that you're looking at. It looks like it's been made with a Meccano set. That's the prototype keyboard that was used then to print, to send the message to the printer, which you can see behind. Now, this is just a made-up photograph, because clearly the printer would be inside of quite a different machine to where the coding desk operator would be sitting. But the principle was that as a key was struck, the hammers inside the printer would swing out and press against the phosphor impregnated yellow phosphor impregnated ribbon in the machine to print the bars onto the envelope. And so on the right hand side you can see the code that would be printed each time a key was depressed. So if you take, for example, Versailles, which is at the top left of the column, KD, she would print, or he would print type KD. And then if you look at the program on the right hand side, you'll see the where the K is, you'd have those 3 bars printed on, and then D, which is in the left hand side of the table, those bars would then be printed underneath. So you would have one single column of bars representing the two letters. This was the sorting equipment that was used. On the left, you can see the young lady there who is stacking the envelopes that have received the code on the envelope, and as it goes round on the belt, it passes a scanner, which is on the left hand side just before the first bin. And what that scanner did was, ahead of the envelope's arrival, determining by the opening of gates on the belt as to which bin the letter would go into. You can see the aerial view. You can see the aerial view on the middle picture there, and you can see the scanner on the bottom right hand side of the sorter. And on the right hand side photograph, you can see the gates on the belt that would divert a letter into a particular bin. The equipment, this particular sorter, was manufactured by Hotchkiss Brandt, and it was known simply as the 8D sorter, because the maximum number of destinations it could sort in any one run would be for 8 destinations. What happened therefore to the other codes that had been typed on the envelopes? Basically, as they went through, if they didn't match any one of those particular bins that were designated for the 8 specific towns, they would be put into a discarded bin. The program would be changed for 8 more towns, and then they'd be passed through again until the whole lot had been processed. That was the experimental equipment that we saw. Once the program really got started, it was moved to the Gare d'Austerlitz in Paris, and it increased to a 48D sorter, 48 destination sorter, which was sufficient now for the whole département of Seine-et-Oise. But the principle is the same. You can see the girl on the right-hand side stacking the coded envelopes into the machine, past the scanner, but then in the sort of center left of the picture, you can see a great big wheel there, which was directing the mail into the huge sorter that is on the right-hand side. So this is what the bars then would look like on the envelopes. I've just selected a few of the towns here. For example, you've got Mantes there, MJ, and the code would be, the 2 elements of the code would be as shown on the left hand side. Notice that the top bar is the start. Now the reason for having a start bar being slightly bigger than the rest was that when the scanner was moving across the envelope, once it picked the larger or rather the wider bar, it knew where to scan there onwards. So down the column. So we've got MJ for Mantes, and TP for Étampes, KB for Corbeil, KD for Versailles, and OZ for Pontoise. Just some of the examples of the of the bars on the envelopes. On the envelopes themselves, this is what they look like. They were printed on the, I said on the front of the envelope. They did initially start on the front of the envelope and also on the back on the right-hand side. Those are exceptionally rare, way outside my price bracket. One of my friends in France, a gentleman by the name of Ludwig Gilles, has been awarded some quite serious awards for his collection, and he's got 2 of 3 of these, and also with trial inks, which were sort of a greyish white colour. Those are very, very scarce, and one of his items is unique. But even these covers are very difficult to find, and so I'm delighted to have them. And they are invariably looking a bit tatty and worn, with ink transferred from one envelope to the other, or onto the back of something else, onto the front of something else. But to me, they enhance it, the history of the item. So here we have got an example then of a cover that has been coded to go to Le Vésinet in Seine-et-Oise. And you can see on the left-hand side how that code was divided into the 2 elements, the V at the top and the N at the bottom. Another example of such a cover, again with the transfer of the phosphorus ink onto the front from the previous cover envelope that went through, DV for Dravet. And the third one that I have in my collection, the HO, which is for Chatou. What is interesting is that this envelope has received the slogan postmark promoting philatèle et technique at the Grand Palais, because this plays a significant part, as we shall see, in the development of these codes. Because at the International Philatelic Exhibition, Philatec, in France, in Paris, the postal authorities demonstrated the coding system that was being experimented with, and this time it was equipment that was manufactured by SECAP. Now, the code that you've been seeing so far, which was in fact simply known as Program 1, was 2 columns of very, very wide, broad bars that was using up a lot of ink and also covering up a large part of the envelope. It was also realized that the best place to have the code was on the front of the envelope, and therefore the bars had to be reduced further still in order not to mask the manuscript address. These are 2 examples of the codes that were printed during the demonstrations at Philatec, but we do not know what those 2 columns mean. It is believed that each of those 2 columns represented perhaps the numbers of the département, but we've got no evidence for or against that theory. As I said before, the experiments were continuing at the Gare d'Austerlitz, and this is now then the 3rd code system that was introduced that later came to be called Austerlitz 1. And you can see the full code on the top right-hand corner. And the code here was the first 2 columns starting from the right-hand side were the numbers of the département, and then the next 3 were for the first 3 letters of the destination town. The bars are much smaller than previously used, but the long start has been retained at the top of each column so that the scanner would know where to start interpreting the bars. Now, these envelopes are from a demonstration that was given at IVA Munich in 1965, and various types of stationery were put through to show how the machinery, the coding desk and the sorting equipment would cope. And as you can see on the right-hand side, you've got a visiting card that has not coped with the receiving the postmark, and the code itself has been printed over the address. It was this sort of incident which led to the French authorities shortly afterwards increasing the minimum size of a visiting card envelope. Smaller envelopes were forbidden, and this is one of the reasons why. And here we've got commercial use then of the Austerlitz one long start language. Again, these are few and far between. The one on the left is to Caen 1-4, but not CAE. In the case where mail was going to the prefecture, the main town of a département, they would simply put VVV, and it's basically a shortcut. And on the right-hand side, we've got one that should have been coded 08 SED, which in fact is, but for some reason it has gone through either twice, or the hammers were not coming out correctly, because clearly there are too many strokes in the columns on the right hand side. After Austerlitz 1, we had Austerlitz 2 and PLM, Arcueil 1, Arcueil 2, and then La Source 1, La Source 2. A considerable number of programs, which I find absolutely fascinating, and I still look out for errors and for unusual configurations, which are still being discovered to this day. Right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mick. Okay, well, a huge variety there, haven't we? Lost a few people along the way, but we're still...
We've scared them off, haven't we? Right, okay. Is John still with us? I think John's battery obviously has, yes, failed him. Okay, but we can carry on later on. Yeah, I thought that was a very good meeting. I think Loïc's material was absolutely outstanding, and John's David's cover. I would love to have in my collection of French West Africa. But, there we are.
We've seen a very big variety.
No, I mean, as you know,
learning a lot of stuff.
Issues. I just love them. Yeah.
We've got a question for Jan. Why were the numbers stroke letters printed in reverse?
That was simply because that was if the envelope is going from left to right, then it's the right-hand side of the envelope that the scanner picks up first. So the scanner then is reading as the envelope goes past. Yeah, that makes sense.
It was good, very enjoyable. Everything was enjoyable.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you very much for Mick for putting all that together. It's a lot of work.
My pleasure. Yeah.
A lot of work. I shall stop recording now.